Good morning. This is John from the Springs Mennonite Church again, and I'm here today to continue our conversation about David. David was a king in the Old Testament and a very important person in the lineage of Jesus and a very important person in history. And as we've talked before, David was an interesting character, and I think he has some things he can teach us even today. So let's read from 2 Samuel chapter 7 verses 18 to 22. Then King David went in and sat before the Lord and prayed, "Who am I, O sovereign God? And what is my family that you have brought me this far? And now, sovereign Lord, in addition to everything else, you speak of giving your servant a lasting dynasty. Do you deal with everyone this way, O sovereign Lord? What more can I say to you? You know that your servant is really like. Because of your promise and according to your will, you have done all these great things and have made them known to your servant. How great you are, O sovereign Lord! There is no one like you. We have never even heard of another God like you." Well, David has some really good words here. It's part of a longer conversation that I can't read the whole thing because, well, it'd take up my whole time. But I want to focus on what he says here. However, in order to do that first, I want to back up just a bit and read a couple of other verses in chapter 7 to set the context. This is verse 8. And God has spoken to the prophet Nathan. And he says in verse 8, "Now go and say to my servant David, here's what the Lord of heaven's armies has declared. I took you from tending sheep in the pasture and selected you to be the leader of my people. I have been with you wherever you have gone, and I have destroyed all your enemies before your eyes. Now I will make your name as famous as anyone who has ever lived on the earth." Let's suppose for a second a prophet from God comes and says that about you. I took you from where you were, and I've made you more famous than anybody else that's ever lived. Your dynasty, your lineage will live forever. What would you think if someone did that? Well, you might think they're a little touched in the head. But yet, in the Old Testament times, being favored by God was, well, it wasn't the most special thing that could happen, maybe, but it's pretty close. Yeah, I think about dynasties and how people get remembered. And I go through the cemeteries every once in a while around here, just sort of look at the names. And I think that person lived an entire life. And now all we know is the name, when they were born, and when they died, and maybe a little reference about something in their lives. That's it. They're gone. And as I get older, and as you get older, all those memories that we hold from the past will be gone when we are. You see, life really is pretty short. Now, that's not to be macabre about it or anything like that. I mean, that's just the way it is. But the idea that someone would remember you, that's a that's something important. And what would they remember about you? Well, hopefully it's something nice. But here we find the prophet Nathan saying, You're special, and God is going to reward you for that. Now, what would be your reaction if that happened to you? Well, David provides us an example. He starts out by saying, "Who am I, God? And what is my family that you have brought me this far?" You hear, even though he has and will yet still mess up, you hear the character of the man named David. Who am I to be picked for this, God? Kind of reminds me of what Moses said. Who am I to go before Pharaoh? You know, the people who deserve the most credit in life are usually not the ones who get the most recognition. Now, in this case, David gets the recognition as well, but his heart forces him to say, "Gosh, God, who am I that you're going to do this to?" It says, in addition, David says, to everything else, you speak of giving me a lasting dynasty. Do you deal with everyone this way? Well, the question is followed by a rhetorical no. God is talking about this man, and this man responds by being very humble and not being self-centered. And then after all of those things, he says, "And what more can I say? Because of your promises, you have done these things." David recognizes that it's God who provides him with the abilities to do whatever is yet to come. This is a prophecy. Hadn't happened yet. David's got a lot of journeying to do before this comes to pass. And so do you and I. Now, I'm not going to say that all of us are super, super, super special. But, well, we kind of are in God's eyes. We don't notice that. But it is to say, your character counts for everything. Who you are matters. How you respond in different situations matters. It matters not just to those around watching you, or it matters not just to yourself, but it matters to God. As we're beginning this new year, what are you going to do to bless Him? I mean, He's blessed you. What are you going to do to bless God? What are you going to do to make God smile? And if you think, well, He's not interested in you, well, sorry, that's not true. Some things just aren't true, and that's one of them. So I leave you today with the simple question: what is the center of your character? Who is the center of your life? Is it a humble person like David, or is it something else? You'll have to decide that one. I can't do it for you. So thanks for listening. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful rest of the week. It's been a pleasure being here. If you have a need or concern, let us know. We'll do whatever we can as fast as we can to help meet your need. So until next time, God bless you. I'll talk to you again.